There's a brand new Fox poll out tonight, as we mentioned earlier. We touched on them a little bit at the top of the hour, but let's dig a little deeper into these numbers. Our political panel is back. Brett Lawrence, executive editor of the Weekly Standard, and A.B. Stoddard, the associate editor at Real Clear Politics. First, let's take a look at this, the independents. We had a shift here that's in Donald Trump's favor in this poll. He was tied, which was, he'd been leading among independents for a long time, and he was tied 35-35 a week ago, and here he is now up 7. That's not unimportant.
I think that in other polls he had been losing them pretty badly. I think it's good news for him, and it probably is a result of more of this bad news for Hillary Clinton on WikiLeaks and other news out of, there's more emails coming from the State Department this Friday, November 4th. I think that is the group that's the most skeptical and can swing between these two candidates that they don't really like. I'm getting laughed at. I don't think this race is over. I do think that if she continues to have bad news, that Donald Trump can close this in some of the battlegrounds where it's pretty close in the weeks to come. Not if he's doing what he keeps doing now, but if he goes back to a Kellyanne Conway script and off of this stuff about the women and this sort of international bank cabal that Paul Ryan and Hillary and the press are a part of. I think that that's going to lose him the election, but I think that he has a chance if she has some really bad dirt and he gets back on script to close it up.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, and we're going to find out tomorrow night in the debate whether he does it or not.
Here's a somewhat more troubling number for him, Fred. I'd like to get your reaction to. This is the party percentages. Yep. And going into this, it's worth remembering, Mitt Romney got 93% of the Republican vote on Election Day. And I guess that vote crept up as we approached Election Day. Look at it now. Clinton is getting 87% of the Democratic vote. That's may be less than she'll finally get. Trump is only at 80% among Republicans. He's been higher than that. What does that say to you?
He has to do better. The rule is a Republican has to win 90%. Maybe, as Romney did, he got 93% and still lost. But 80%...
that's a losing number.
That is he's doomed at 80%. Now, I think there's some Republicans he can get. Getting up to 90%, though, is going to be very hard. But he's going to have to really appeal to them in the debate tomorrow night and not be a wild man talking about a rigged election and conspiracies and particularly attacking Paul Ryan. I mean, there's an issue that makes you wonder, how does that help him?
Right. Well, that fires up some of his base, but they're already with him.
They're already fired up.
I mean, look at this one. This was one that really sort of stunned me. This is a change election. We all agree with that. Yeah. People want change. So here's a better job question. Who would do a better job of changing the country for the better? And Clinton is ahead on this, which is close. It's within the margin of error, but what do you make of that, A.B.?
That's bad news for him, 21 days out. That is exactly what he doesn't want to see. A Fox News poll showing her as more of a change agent than him.
Yeah, I remember sitting at the convention when Bill Clinton was talking about how she was the greatest change maker he'd ever known. I thought, people are never going to buy that. She's been around forever. She's not the change candidate, but look at that.
No, the person who has to sell the change, being the change candidate, is Trump. And he mentions the word change every now and then, but not even that often. And he needs to say, look, I'm the change candidate. Here's what I'm going to do, and contrast it with her.
Does this term limits pitch he made today factor into that?
No.
Why not?
Because it's just not going to happen. I mean, look, the people know that there's not going to be a constitutional amendment that's successful, and we're going to have term limits. I'm all for term limits, but we've been through this before, and it didn't happen then, won't happen now.
Well, this is one that I was struck by. This is about this is an honesty question, and it asks, first of all, there's one concerning Hillary Clinton. Is Hillary Clinton lying, the question was posed, about how her emails were handled? 67% said yes. This is in a poll where she's leading. 67% say yes. And the separate question was asked as to who is lying between Donald Trump and his accusers, obviously about the women. Look at this. 51% say Trump. 10 say both, so that means that over 60% think Trump is lying. Only 24% say the accusers are lying, which I think, given the amount of time he's spent and the amount of table pounding he's been doing on the fact that these women who are telling these stories about him are lying, this is apparently not working.
No, I don't think it's working, and I think it cements sort of an anti-Trump vote among women that Romney won, who Hillary's targeting aggressively in the suburbs of Denver and McLean, Virginia, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Whether or not, because they don't like her either, they vote for her is really key to her margin on Election Day. And what I'll be most interested in seeing, because 6 in 10 voters always say she's lying and have been about her emails for more than a year.
Well, now it's up to 67 in this poll.
And I wonder if that's just baked in the cake. She's a documented liar. She continues to lie about it. And I wonder if this, when you see an overall positive number where she's beating Trump, isn't just what they say about it being baked into the cake of the Clinton candidacy, and we'll see people in exit polling voting for her and saying by 7 to 78% of the country saying she's a liar.
She's a liar. Fred.
You know, polls can be they can be kind of misleading sometimes because
almost contradictory.
Almost contradictory. I think was it George H.W. Bush at one point in 1988 showed that he had very high negatives that were over 40%, and he was supposed to be unelectable as a result. Of course, he was elected president.
Right.
So you wonder what people are thinking on that poll.
Well,
I'm voting for Hillary, and she lies.
They're thinking they don't have to vote yet. That's what they're thinking, and they're right about that.
I thought the most interesting poll, though, was when he did have about the economy that shows it's the most important, and Trump needs to say a lot about it.
Of the 5 or 6 basket of big issues, he's winning on that one only, but that's the one.
Yeah, well, he needs to talk about it tomorrow.
Thank you, panel.